Welcome to Weird Web Radio, an explorer's guide to hidden worlds of the paranormal and occult, reality-expanding experiences, and the downright weird and bizarre. With your host, Lonnie Scott.
Welcome to Weird Web Radio. I'm your host, Lonnie Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch of Season 4 of Weird Web Radio. It is an incredible honor to have you all here listening. Thank you for all the continued support and sharing the shows as we've gone along through the seasons. And each and every episode, I hope, has had some sort of impact in your personal practice and your lives. If nothing else, I hope it's opened your mind to entire new worlds of possibility of what you can do with your mind and magic. This episode features John Beckett. You may remember John from his earlier appearance all the way back in the first season of this show. Well, John's back and talking about his new book, Paganism In Depth. We get into a lot of subtle issues that are challenging pagans as they go way beyond the 101, the deeper philosophical questions that we must ask ourselves, and even going into like how do you deal with the allure of atheism when they go attacking the big Abrahamic religions that dot the landscape. This is also the first time John's appeared on the show where I asked some questions about how an occult and pagan-leaning guest deals with the paranormal. We didn't do that way back in Season 1, so it was a lot of fun to get John involved in all those fun and games that we like to have here. I've also brought a portion of the bonus audio section into the regular show where I ask guests about their favorite folklore from the places they've lived or traveled, and John didn't disappoint with a pretty cool story of his own. As always, I want to remind everyone to go like, subscribe, and leave comments even on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and everywhere else that you get your podcasts. Share the shows on your social media. Let friends, family, and even the familiars know what it is that you love and really enjoy about Weird Web Radio. If you're looking to gain access to the bonus audio portions and extended interviews with all of the guests, you need to go to patreon.com/weirdwebradio or weirdwebradio.com and click join the membership. And it's only $5 a month to gain access to all of those archives and anything current. Make sure you check out the show notes and all the information about John, where you can find his books, his website, and his really kick-ass blog. I don't want to stand between you and John anymore. Enjoy the show and stay weird out there, my friends. John Beckett, welcome back to Weird Web Radio. It is an absolute honor to have you back here as my very first repeat guest on the show.
Great to be back. I did not know that would be your first repeat guest, but that is certainly an honor. Thanks for having me back.
Well, as in the case of all things losing virginity, you never tell those you're with that you're still a virgin. All right, John. Well, you've got a great new book out on the market, and I'm sure it's getting a lot of traction and attention, as it most assuredly would, titled Paganism In Depth, The Polytheist Approach, Foundations, Practices, and Challenges. Why did this book need to be written?
My first book, The Path of Paganism, was the book that I wanted to give to people after they had read one book and they came to me and said, "What should I do now?" This is the book I wanted to give to people after they had been practicing for a year or three and they were really ready to do something again, deeper. Particularly the people who follow my writing, follow my blogging, and who, paganism has 87 different varieties, and that's just at the high level. There are a few people who do the kind of ecstatic, devotional, pagan polytheism that I do, but they haven't written a lot of books about it. I felt like we needed a book that would tell people, okay, if you want to practice devotional polytheism, if you want to practice a pagan religion based on honoring the gods and experiencing them firsthand, this is one way to do it. Certainly not the only way, but this is how I do it. So yeah, this book is what I do on a daily, weekly, seasonal, yearly basis.
So, book one, this is how you get started. This is how to be a pagan. And I think people could probably spend years studying that one, just getting into the groove of things. What I found interesting about your new book is that it asks those harder questions about what it means to be a religious person under the pagan umbrella. Is that another sort of avenue you were aiming for?
Well, it certainly is different. That's a question I address on and off all the time. So many people who come into paganism are religiously wounded. I grew up in a fundamentalist Baptist church, and it took me years to recover from that. We have people who are recovering from, a strict Catholic upbringing. On the other hand, we have people who grew up being told there are no gods and and religion is a complete waste of time. People tend to come, or let me change that. A lot of people come into paganism for the magic, for the witchcraft, for what kind of cool stuff can I do, and that's fine. My paganism is a magical paganism. I work magic on a, let's say, on an as needed basis, but that's not the core of my practice. My core of practice is a religious practice. It is around devotion to the gods with whom I have relationships. It is about devotion to my ancestors, to the spirits of the land where I am. This is the religious approach that I bring to my paganism, which is, it's not uncommon, but certainly it is not what you see in certainly most beginning pagans, and really even some advanced intermediate pagans.
And the way you answer that question, I think, leads nicely into something we sort of discussed before we started in your Pagan Foundations chapter under religious experience. You say there's a great lack of understanding of religious experience in contemporary Western society. Now, at the heart of that question, where's the criticism important for those of us who are living under the modern pagan umbrella?
Religious experience happens in all cultures, all religions, throughout all of history, from the beginnings of humanity. Our contemporary mainstream religions devalue it. I was explicitly taught, don't trust your experiences. Trust the Bible. More specifically, trust what the local preacher tells me about the Bible. We all have the classical experiences of wonder and awe. When we're out in nature and we see a sunset, or we experience a birth, or we experience the death of a loved one, and these powerful immensities of life, I think is the word that Brendan Myers uses, that affect us in our minds and deep into our souls. Beyond that, we have experiences of ghosts, of gods, of the fair folk, of all kinds of spiritual beings. We have experiences of magic, and our mainstream society tells us those things cannot be, therefore we made them up, therefore we should rationalize them away. There's a book, I think it came out last year, might have been 2 years ago, called the Myth of Disenchantment. and it's basically a work. It's a social sciences book, rather academic, kind of dry to read, but what it says is very important. There's a quote that says, "Once the land was full of fairies, but now no man can see them anymore." That quote was written by Geoffrey Chaucer sometime in the 1300s. There is a long history of people assuming that the golden age of magic, of the fairies, of God speaking with people, it was in the past, and that doesn't happen anymore. Meanwhile, people in every era are having these experiences and talking about them and writing about them, and they become the folklore of future generations who will also look back and say, "Boy, those people back in the early 2000s sure had a lot of magical experiences. We don't have them anymore." We're always looking back toward a golden era that really wasn't all that different from the way things are today. So our society tells us to ignore our experiences. It tells us to rationalize them away. And I say no. Our experiences are real. You hear and see and feel what you hear and see and feel. And don't ever let anybody gaslight you. Don't let people tell you, no, you didn't see what you know you saw. Now, your interpretation of those experiences may be more or less right. You can say, I heard a voice, and I have no idea where it came from. That's a fact. My grandmother was speaking to me. Well, that's an interpretation of that experience. Those are two different things. We have to separate the facts of our experiences from our interpretations of them, from the way we assign meaning to them. But at the same time, those experiences are very real, and people have had them for as long as we've been human, and they will continue to have them for as long as our species manages to not kill ourselves. So, religious experience is downplayed in in our mainstream society. We need to elevate it to the top of our religious priorities.
I think you nailed quite a bit of information down there. One thing that I think there's a dangerous narrative in our modern society, especially in the West, when it attacks religion, is it's all too fun and easy to fall into the atheist meme world, making fun of modern, the big Abrahamic religions for the things that they believe, and to jump in on that bandwagon. But how soon is it, or how quickly could those same sort of attacks turn on us in paganism?
Oh, they're happy to the militant atheists are more than happy to tell us we're idiots. We're just there's just a lot fewer of us, and we don't have the power that the Christians or the Muslims or even the Jews and Hindus have. So they tend to leave us alone unless we go playing in their spaces. What we have to do as pagans, again, is not to let our joy, if you will, over somebody attacking a different religion, maybe a different religion that has hurt us, and piling on to that without understanding that the reason those atheists are attacking them, they'd be happy to attack us for those same reasons. Let's criticize fundamentalist Christianity for believing things that are clearly not true. The Earth is more than 6,000 years old. Evolution is a fact. Jesus of Nazareth may very well have been a historical person, and hey, by this time may have become a god after 2,000 years of worship, but there is no reason to accept the Christian narrative of a resurrection and all of the doctrine that goes along with that. Let's criticize the 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 the, the fundamentalist and Orthodox Christians for the valid reasons, not for believing that there are gods, that there is life after death, that there is more to the world than what can be cataloged and dissected and measured, because most of us believe those same things too.
Well said. And in that other response, you also said something about making sure that people aren't gaslighting you. And I'd be willing to wager some people aren't even sure what gaslighting means or how to protect themselves from that. So could you elaborate on that subject a little more?
The term gaslighting comes from a movie by the title of Gaslight. It's in the was made back in, I think, the 40s. It is a term frequently used in terms of domestic abuse, where an abuser will tell somebody, "No, that didn't happen. You think you're no, I never said that. And you know good and well they didn't. And they keep telling you over and over again, this didn't happen. This can't be real. You're making this up. You're imagining. Are you mentally ill? Are you going crazy?" And that was the premise of the movie Gaslight. The husband was trying to make his wife think she was crazy for whatever reason. So yeah, gaslighting is when somebody keeps telling you that you didn't really see what you know you saw, and if they tell you that enough, you're going to start to believe them, and you're going to dismiss what you know is true, what you saw with your own eyes, what you heard with your own ears, because people kept telling you, nope, didn't happen. Peer pressure, societal pressure is incredibly strong.
I agree. It's one of those societal pressures that can make you doubt everything you're doing, for everybody listening, when it comes to even your first attempts at practicing something like magic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you've got those sorts of doubts that are coming from everything around you, you may not find the foothold that launches you into success.
And it's good to have doubts. It's good to be a little skeptical and not to jump to an otherworldly conclusion for what may have a perfectly mundane cause. Doubts are good. What's not good is letting people put doubts in your mind because they think what you're telling them can't possibly happen when you know good and well it did.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in a polytheist approach, the gods are certainly a central figure in your paganism. How do you separate out, as a polytheist, how do you view pantheons and gods in different cultures and the way that they approach these subjects? Are you what is known as a hard polytheist, a soft polytheist? How does this manifest itself in your practice?
Can I use profanity?
Please. This is an explicit show, John.
Okay. I'm gonna be a dick. There is only polytheism. What is called soft polytheism is not polytheism. The polytheism, and I lean here on the anomalous Thracians' definition of polytheism, is the religious regard for many real gods, and the idea that all gods are aspect of one god, all goddesses are aspects of one goddess. That's not polytheism. Now, it's a valid religious viewpoint, and if that's what you're convinced is a reflection of reality, more power to you. But don't call it polytheism because it isn't. To give your answer a straight question, yes, I'm a very hard polytheist. The gods are individual beings. They are the mightiest of spirits. You asked about pantheons. I have a little bit of a problem with pantheons, not the concept, but the way that people tend to use them. People tend to take the the idea of the 12 Olympians of the ancient Greeks, and then try to force every culture into that model, forgetting the fact that the Greeks had more than 12 gods, and oh, by the way, which 12 are ruling on Olympus depends on who's telling the story. And I'm not I'm not a Hellenist. I can't give you the details on that, but I know enough to know that some versions had some deities and some versions had others. I think of pantheons not as a rigid hierarchy of authority with a king of the gods and his underlings and all this. I think of a pantheon more like a family. They're all different persons. They're individuals. They do their own things, but they're related. They work together some of the time. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're at odds with each other, just like your family. You've got members of your family who you're really close to, others who you just as soon you don't see for a while, and others you haven't seen in years, and all of a sudden they show up on your doorstep. And I think the pantheons of the gods are more like our extended families than any sort of military type hierarchy.
And when we talk about the gods, you have a subheading in your book. It talks about the authority of the gods, how you don't like fundamentalism, of course, from the way you grew up, but yet there's things you realize as you've gotten older you just don't know. But you know something about the authority of the gods. Where, how do I want to ask this? What is the authority of the gods? How do they have this authority?
So I have some people, including my fellow polytheists, who say the gods are the gods and therefore we should worship them and follow them and do as they say. I don't agree with that. That sounds too much like Calvinism, where their God is almighty and therefore he can do whatever he wants to with his creatures. The authority of the gods comes from who they are and for what they do. It comes from their virtues. Gods are many things. One of the things they is the embodiment of virtues, and the virtues, by definition, are good. And so, Cernunnos is a god of the wild, a god of nature, a god of nurturing. Those are good things. Those good things carry authority. Beyond that, the gods are far older than us. They are wiser than us. They are stronger than us. That age and experience and wisdom gives them authority because they know what they're talking about. And it's kind of like if you're trying to fix your car and the neighborhood kid comes over who has never seen the underside of a hood and starts telling you how to fix your car, you're not going to pay much attention to him. On the other hand, if your neighbor who is who's been a professional auto mechanic for 30 years comes over, you're going to pay attention to him. He has some authority based on his experience and his knowledge and his wisdom. So you're going to listen. You're going to acknowledge his authority. You're probably going to do everything he tells you to because he knows more about it than you do. And it's the same way with the gods. They are older, stronger, wiser than us. So when they will speak to us, in whatever way they choose, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. Now, ultimately, we are responsible for our lives, and we should not try to turn our lives over to Zeus, and I don't think Zeus wants us to turn our lives over to him. But we need to listen and pay attention and respect that authority that comes with experience and wisdom.
And and when we talk about the authority of the gods and their experience and their wisdom, um, I know from your writing, especially on your blog, that you have entered into oaths to a couple at least gods, well, God and a goddess that I know for sure that you've got this
I have three.
much deeper relationship with.
Yes.
So, how does one know that a god is looking for that much deeper of a connection and commitment? And I mean, why would you agree to enter into that deep of a obligation anyway?
That's a really good question. Um, I have three oath relationships. I'm a priest of Cernunnos. I am a priest of Danu. I am a druid of the Morrigan. I am not her priest. I am her druid. Subtle differences. Um, in my case, all three situations were different. But to summarize, I worked with them. I read their lore, such as it is, particularly with Cernunnos and Danu. I worked with them in meditation and in prayer. I honored them with offerings and with rituals in their honor and rituals at which they were the deity of the occasion. I tried to embody their virtues and again learn from them, learn from that authority, learn from that wisdom and experience. And in each case, that ongoing relationship of do this, and then on the other side, me go, can you do this for me? How should I go about doing this? And this very much reciprocal relationship grounded in reciprocity. It got in each case, it eventually got to the point where I knew that this relationship needed to be formalized. Yes, I can keep working with you without any commitment, but I need to make that commitment. They wanted me to make that commitment. Why would you do it? Because you want to be a part of their work for as long as the oath is made for. This is, we live in a difficult world. We live in a challenging world, and I like being on the team of the Lord of the Animals and a God of Nature. I like being on the team of a mother goddess and the Lady of the Waters. I especially like being on the team of a battle goddess and the goddess of sovereignty. And I want I I'm going to say this. I'm going to have to define it. I took oaths to them because I believe in them, not in that I believe they're real, although clearly I do, but I believe in their values and their virtues and the things I see them doing in the world and the plans they have to the extent that they let me in them on them, which isn't very much. I want to be a part of this, and I want to be a part of it for the rest of this life. It's very similar to a marriage. Why get married when you can live together? Certainly, and there are. I'm from an era where it was expected that you should get married and not live together, but it's not a big deal anymore. But still, you get to the point where you trust your partner and you love them, but you want that permanent connection. You want that ritual connection of the ring and the ceremony and the hand fasting and all that. And it's very similar with the deities. Yeah, you can keep working on an informal basis, but you want something formal and permanent, and so do they.
Yeah, well done on that answer. That was not an easy question. So, you've got another part in here where you say that pagans don't talk much about depth. And since that really is the gist of your book, Paganism in Depth, I mean, what is where do you see the lack of talking about depth, or where is it that it really needs to be addressed?
I want to not be a dick here. So I want to be careful how I bring this up, because one of the things I say on a regular basis is the religions we're building for the future need to have room for the plumber and the accountant as much as for the priest and the mystic. We need to have a place in our pagan religions for ordinary people who want to honor the gods, live a virtuous life, but other than that, go on and live an ordinary mundane life. We need to have room in our religion for those people. The problem I see, though, is that people who say they want to be a priest of a deity, or they want to be a witch, or they want to be pick whatever title you want, and it's clear that this is a sometimes hobby for them. Yeah, I'll do it if I'm not busy with everything with something else. Even if you set aside the lack of commitment on the part of some, not all, but some, there's a lack of understanding that there is more to paganism than calling the quarters and dancing the maypole. Now, those are important things. I call quarters in almost all of my rituals. We do a maypole dance every year. But that kind of basic 101, 102 level paganism will only take you so far. And now, if that's as far as you want to go, that's fine. And I don't say that sarcastically. Again, we need to make room for the accountants and the plumbers, as well as the priests and mystics. But if you're going to be a priest or a mystic, if you're going to be a witch, if you're going to be whatever the heathen terms are for the religious specialist, then you're going to need some more depth. You're going to need more frequent practice, more regular practice, more intense practice. You're going to need to think about some of these issues that I raise in this book, and if you don't come to the same conclusions I do, that's fine. But you still need to contemplate the questions and come up with your own approach so that this has the importance in your life that you need to be that religious specialist that your community needs and that you've said you wanted to be.
Now, you say at one point in this book that you even feel that paganism is going to end up in one way or another the religion of the future. When you think about it that way, what does that actually look like in the world? Are you talking about a more stable and perhaps professional clergy, more dedicated land spaces, even buildings or temples that are more easily accessible? I'm curious of the details.
Oh, I like the way you brought that up, because you brought that up the same way that most people do. And I do too. I want the temples. I want the professional clergy. I want the universities with our names on them. And that is sitting here at this point in time is absolutely the wrong approach. We're not there yet. I think the future, honestly, I don't know what the future is. I think paganism is especially well suited for to be a religion of the next 300 years. That said, is it going to replace Christianity as the dominant religion in the West? I don't know. That's a big ask. Is it going to become what Buddhism or Judaism is in the United States? Well, I think that's not just possible. I think that's likely. Where we are right now with paganism is we're in what I like to call a speciation period. Speciation is a biological term where the process of evolution is creating all these different new variants, all these new mutations. And we know from the fossil record that most of those mutations are going to die. Most of the speciation, most of the new pagan species that are being created are not going to outlive their founders. Some of them aren't even going to live as long as their founders. Over time, though, the ones that are especially strong, especially robust, to go back to the biological metaphor, that are especially well adapted to this place and this time and these circumstances of the society, those versions are going to grow. I believe, and this is John's speculation. This isn't UPG, unverified personal gnosis, words from the gods or anything. This is just John's speculation. I think that paganism over time, and by time I mean the next 100 years, is going to evolve into many individual traditions that are going to fall into three main categories. The first category is going to be Wicca and witchcraft. And my traditional witchcraft friends may not like me lumping those two together, but some variety, the practices and the religions that deal with the witchcraft are such as is exemplified today by Wicca and also by traditional witchcraft. I lump those two things together because they're both about the archetype of the witch. So witchcraft is going to be one major form of paganism. The second one is going to be polytheism, which is what I'm doing, which is what I'm writing about in this book, and that will include the Celtic Reconstructionists and the heathens and the Cometics and the Hellenists and all of these people, these many ethnic reconstructionisms that will do things in similar ways but not identical ways because they're drawing from different sources. And the third form of paganism will be a non-theistic nature worship. People who don't believe in gods, who don't believe in magic, but who find great meaning in nature, in the natural processes, who may even use magical language to describe ordinary phenomena, and who care as deeply about the earth, about the creatures who share this planet with us, as do the polytheists, as do the witches. So while I have an issue with the militant atheists, the Richard Dawkins of types of the world. I certainly respect and want to make room for the pagan non-theists who are part of our umbrella. So the paganism is a religion of the future. Wicca and witchcraft, polytheism, non-theistic nature worship.
Outstanding. Can't wait to see what sort of heretics pop up between the three.
There will be plenty.
Now, getting into more practical subjects that you include in your book, I want to talk about the pagan practice of prayer, and something that we're all probably familiar with in the Western world growing up, influenced by the bigger religions. What makes pagan prayer different?
That's a good question. In too many cases, not enough. I hear pagans whose prayers sound like the 4-year-old sitting on Santa Claus's lap, who are just asking for who are treating the gods as vending machines, wanting to give us stuff. Done right, though, prayer is talking to the gods. That's what it is. Done right, it allows us to speak the yearnings of our heart. It allows us to express our gratitude. It draws us closer to the divine beings who are the focus of our worship. And that is true whether we are using scripted prayers. There are here I go again. What's the hymns of Orpheus? There we go. If we're reciting one of the hymns of Orpheus to one of the Greek deities, if we have one of the modern pagan prayer books, or we've written our own prayers, and we are saying the same prayer over and over and over again because it brings us into a greater depth with those concepts, or if we're simply out here speaking conversationally. And all of those things are appropriate in their time. But some pagans have some unhelpful attitudes about prayer because of what they were taught in another religion, or because of what they saw other people doing in that other religion. And that's unfortunate. We need to work through that and speak to our gods on a regular basis. My prayer is my core spiritual practice. I have 4 daily prayers. 3 of them are pretty much scripted. My final prayer late at night is much more free form. These keep me connected to my gods, to my ancestors, to the values and virtues that I want to build my pagan practice and my life on.
Perfect. And in the same chapter, when you follow up talking about pagan prayer with a section that it's a very brief section that I think it might be one of the most important things in the entire book. It only takes up a couple pages. The heading for it is "Pray for the Dead."
Oh yes. Oh yes. So I grew up in a evangelical Protestant fundamentalist church where, once you die, that's it. Don't pray for the dead. They're either in heaven or in hell, and you can't do anything about them. This is, I forget the word I use. I use a rather strong word in there. Um, um, this is wrong. Let me just put it that way. This is wrong. Um, our dead are not gone. Um, they may have, particularly those who died a sudden, unexpected death. They may be hanging around here. They may need our help to move on to the other world. They need our help to tell them it's okay. You will be missed, but you can go on now. If they left unfinished business, we may need to tell them that that we'll take care of it for them. We may need to call a psychopomp, a guide for the dead, whether that's a deity, whether that's an ancestor, to come help this person move on to wherever they're going. Our the dead need our prayers, particularly in the early days and weeks after they die, and that is one of our sacred obligations to our families, to our co-religionists, to say the prayers, to help them move on, to wrap things up here and move on to the other world.
In the book, you say the reason that prayers for the dead are considered useless, you call that blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the word I used, and the word I couldn't quite remember here. Yeah, it is blasphemy. It is an insult to our beloved dead if we don't pray for them.
Now, with the prevalence, the horrifying, really, prevalence of mass shootings and other tragedies that are striking the public, it's become sort of fashionable to criticize people who say our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the departed and with those that have been killed. How does that square? I mean, how would you respond to the people who criticize the act of prayer after such horrible events?
The problem with thoughts and prayers is not that we do it. We should do it. We should pray for the dead. We should pray for their their families who are here. But damn it, that's not all we can do. The thoughts and prayers have become a cliche that means do nothing. And honestly, I think if some of these people who say thoughts and prayers were actually praying, they might be doing something to reduce the acts of domestic terrorism in this country, whether it is by limiting access to weapons, whether it is by finding the troubled young men, and it's always troubled young men who are committing these atrocities, and stopping them before it gets started, whether it means shutting down the cesspools where these young men become radicalized to go out and kill people because of political views, or their views on women, or their views on other religions. We can do things about that, and we should. Thoughts and prayers are absolutely appropriate when learning of someone's death, but that's not enough. That won't do a thing to prevent the next death, and that's what we've got to be doing.
Well said. Now, considering, as you said, these acts of domestic terror and things that happen in society at large, when it comes to us in the very small world of paganism, how would you like to see those of us in paganism responding to these sort of crisis situations that are happening in the world around us?
There is only so much we can do as individuals. Again, thoughts and prayers are appropriate for the dead, for the and for their survivors. It is appropriate to do magical workings um, to to protect our own. When you get into magical workings of trying to stop mass shootings, now you're in that realm of beauty contestants working for world peace. You're doing your target is so vague and so high level. It's never going to amount to anything with a magical working. We can support politicians who actually who will actually do something as opposed to taking another contribution from the NRA. And let me stop right here. I'm a gun owner. Um, I have owned guns all my life. I support the right of people to keep weapons. Um, at the same time, there is no reason why most of these mass shooters have been able to accumulate the military weapons that they have. We can have reasonable gun control without disarming the population. The only the other thing we can do is simply work to build a society where these things are less likely to happen because people don't think to do them because they don't want to do them. We're so many different things I want to say. The other thing, the thing I keep pushing on here is let's not let the perfect stop us from doing. Let's not let the perfect get in the way of the good. We can't stop people from killing each other. We can make it harder to kill large numbers of people at one time. Let's, if there are 200 mass shootings this year, we can't make that 0 next year, but I bet we could make it 100 next year, and 50 the year after, and 20 the year after that. Let's work toward making things better instead of saying, oh, we have to do it all. Well, we can't do it all, so we're going to do nothing, which is what we're doing right now. And I think I am rambling right now. So you probably should get us back on track.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's my fault I opened up that can of worms, but I do think it's important, especially if we're going to talk about paganism in depth, the deeper questions, the harder questions about being pagan, about living your religion in a world where we're still a minority way of looking at it, that we have a voice as well in the larger societal issues. And I think tackling those issues collectively as a community are some of those harder questions that we should be addressing. And with someone like you that has a large platform and a voice of leadership, whether you wanted it or not, your opinion carries weight. And why not let people hear what you think?
Yep. So thank you. It's hard. It's complicated. If it was easy, we would have fixed it already. It's very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
That means we have to start doing something. Probably means we have to do more than one something, because the first thing we do is probably not going to work, or at least not work as well as we want to. So let's try 3 or 4 or 18 different things, and the things that make things better we keep doing, and we do in more depth, more intensity. The things that don't work we discard and we try something else, but let's do something.
Yep. And certainly start with praying for the dead.
Yes.
Now we're running into time here, so let's get into something that is new about the show since you were on it way back in the first season. Somewhere along the way, I started thinking it would be a good idea to ask my pagan, magical, occult guests about hauntings, since another portion of this show is featuring paranormal investigators and, their experiences going in and out of places and trying to find evidence of ghosts in the afterlife. So, John, have you ever experienced a haunting?
Not directly. I have I've been called in a couple of times to do house cleansings, house blessings, where people thought they might be haunted, and I was nor the more sensitive people who came with me were, we were able to, to recognize, troubling energies, and in one case some spirit activity, but nothing that I would call a haunting.
Nothing that you would call a haunting, but you have been involved in house cleansing and things. So
Yes.
if someone is needing your help, saying, like we've gone through every possible scenario, we're pretty sure we've got something, spirit going on in this house, we need help.
Yep.
How do you help those people?
Well, the first thing you do is you listen. You go in there and you listen, and you sit there and you pay attention. Listen to the stories of the people in the house, but go see for yourself. Go hear for yourself. Is it a person? Is it a spirit? Is it leftover energy? The leftover energy stuff, and I use energy here in that generic sense that it's something we really don't know what it is, and we call it energy, and everybody knows what we mean. Um, the leftover energy, the spiritual gunk that gets left when people have bad experiences and do bad things, that tends to be rather common. Actual spirits tend to be much less common. If you do find a spirit, then talk to them. Talk to the spirit. Um, is this somebody who died and can't move on or doesn't want to move on? Don't assume that whatever's there needs to be banished. Um, um, I have a friend who has a ghost in her house. What you call it? It's a spirit who's in her house. It was the guy who built the house, and he just wants to hang around to make sure nobody screws up his house. And he's kind of nice to have around. He kind of looks after things. You don't want to go banishing him off to the other world. If it's a person, treat them with the dignity and respect that you would with a living person. Now, if at the end of the day they have to go, then they have to go, and then you start doing the type of cleansing work that we normally do. I tend to do a fairly basic 3-pass process, going through the house once, doing cleansing, going back a second time and blessing the house, and then going back a third time and putting up wards to keep anything malevolent from coming back or coming in the first place. So I've done that a few times. It's I'm my friend Cynthia is better at it than I am, but the two of us together, make a pretty good team. And it's certainly I will be doing when if I ever move, I would certainly do that with a house, a new house that I moved into. Just go through, see who's there, see what's there, get rid of the stuff that doesn't belong, that you don't want. See if there's anybody there you need to make an agreement with, and then go back to the process of making it mine.
And you were talking about how somebody had a spirit in their house. It was the guy that built the house. How do you determine something so specific? Like earlier you were talking about you hear a voice and it's disembodied, and that's a fact. Or versus grandma was talking to me,
right?
And that's speculation.
Some people are especially sensitive to these things. I have a couple of friends who they can't turn it off, and they have interesting lives. For me, um, I can, because I've worked at this for many years, um, I can feel things, I can hear things if they're pretty loud. Um, a lot of times I'll have to go to divination. Um, okay, what I can feel something. I don't know what it is or who it is. Let me throw the cards and see what the cards have to tell me. And the cards are almost always right. Um, yeah. Um, the people who are who have a natural talent for this and who have nurtured that talent um, are the best. Those of us with less talent, we do what we can listening, and then we go to divination.
Yeah, I agree. I always say turn to divination when in doubt. When not in doubt, get in doubt.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
There is I not on this topic. I have had, again, I'm a sworn druid of the Morrigan, but I have had her tell me something, and I have told her back, I hear you. I'm going to go verify this. And she's like, all right, you need to be sure. Go ahead. Um, because I don't trust myself when it comes as when it comes to delivering deeply personal messages that have a chance of getting the messenger shot. I want to make absolutely sure that this is what she wants and not just what I think she wants.
Yeah, very. That's a good idea to have. One should always work to develop that sort of discernment anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, final question before we get into the bonus audio portion for Patreon members. This is something that I have previously, for the last couple seasons, included in just that bonus portion, but I've found that it's produced some of my most beloved and favorite answers that I get, that I just want everyone, whether they're paying me or not, to hear the answers that it produces. So with all that said, every place in the world has its own history, something I'm sure you can appreciate.
Absolutely.
So you've got the haunted places, all the witches and stuff that are, the people in the past who are the really interesting ones, landmarks of great significance and power. They're all over the world, everywhere you've ever lived or worked or played. So with that said, what's your favorite local folklore or spot that's historically significant?
That's a hard one. Um, let me give you an answer that other people are not likely to give you. There is a place. There's a place about an hour and a half southwest of here called Dinosaur Valley State Park. It is a place where 100 million years ago, it was a seashore with lots of shells on it, lots of limestone. And one day, a big dinosaur ran across the beach chasing a smaller dinosaur, and we don't know how that chase ended up. But shortly after that happened, the footprints were filled in, and they stayed filled in for 100 million years. And then in the early 1900s, the combination of first a flood to wash away the dirt and then a drought to dry up the water exposed the footprints. And I've been down there, and I have put my hand in a footprint that's 100 million years old. And you do the touristy stuff, and you wade out into the creek, and you stand in the footprint, and you put your hands in the other ones, and you take pictures and all that stuff. And then you just step back and open your other eyes and your other ears. And what was there was so very old. We were like hummingbirds. Um, how are you going to have a relationship with the spirits that, for in their perspective, we have the lifespan of a mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just an amazing experience, just to be there. That and I'm not doing a very good job of putting it into words because I don't think I can. Um, just the immense age of that place and of the spirits that were there. And yeah, if you're ever in have some time when you're in North Texas, it's Dinosaur Valley State Park. It's southwest of Fort Worth. Just a fascinating place.
That sounds really cool. And for all of you novel writers out there looking for an idea, I would suggest that a druid priest discovering 100 million-year-old footprint and placing his hand in it could produce quite a story. Well, John, thank you again for being here. It's really awesome to have you back on the show. I hope this helps you move some books and get more people finding all of your writing, because I really believe the work that you put into the world is that important.
I appreciate it.
All right, gang. Thank you again for tuning in to Weird Web Radio. As always, you know the drill. If you want to get in on the extended interview of this, you need to go to patreon.com/weirdwebradio or weirdwebradio.com. Click join the membership. John, tell the folks where they can find you.
My blog, Under the Ancient Oaks, is part of the Patheos Pagan channel. The best way to find it is simply to Google John Beckett Patheos, and it will come up. I blog 3 days most weeks on the topics the topics we've been discussing here. You can find me on Facebook. That's my primary social media outlet. I'm on Twitter, but about all I do on Twitter is push the blog. I have an account on MeWe for the people who hate Facebook. Not much going on there, but hey, if you're on there, look me up. I just started an Instagram. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I'm posting cool pictures for no apparent reason at the moment. I just back about a month and a half ago, just started a new website. This one called undertheancientoaks.com. It's a personal website. I'm not moving my blog there, but I've set up a 6-week online class to accompany this book, and it's a video-based class. It's on demand, so we've already started, but you can go in and sign up for it anytime and work through it at your own pace. It's intended to be a 6-week class, so I have 6 weekly lessons covering different things about the book, and had a really good initial registration, and we're as we record this, module 5 is about to go up, so module 6 will be out before too long, and there is module 0 is on the website, and that is free. So if you want to go and take a look at it and see what you'd be getting into, see what you're signing up for, see what you get for your money, it's there for you to try out. So yeah, lots of places to find me.
Outstanding. And real quick before we move along, is there something that I should have asked or something you'd like to talk about that I didn't cover, or do you have any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone?
Just want to reemphasize the importance of religious experience and of accepting the reality of your experiences. You still got to do the work of discernment, as you talked about. You still got to figure out what they mean, and they may very well have a mundane cause, perfectly ordinary cause, but they may not. And build your religion on your own experiences, not somebody else's account of their experiences.
Very well said. All right, folks. Once again, come join the membership to get all that bonus material. Stay weird out there, my friends. All right, John, it is bonus audio time. Are you ready, sir?
Let's go.
All right. Everybody says that. Not everybody's really ready. What famous person's resting place do you most want to visit? Do you want to hear how they just answered that question? What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit? That and many others, including what they think about the afterlife, what they may or may not do in cemeteries, what are their traditions, magical practices that have to do with the dead, folklore that surrounds their homes, and so much more, available for only $5. $5 a month. Even if I make more than one episode in a month, it's still just $5 a month at patreon.com/weirdwebradio, or go to weirdwebradio.com and click join the membership. You can find me on Instagram at weirdwebradio. You can find me on Facebook as Weird Web Radio, or come join the new, fun and exciting Weird Web Radio Facebook group. Thank you again for being here. Stay weird out there, my friends.